Hi, welcome to the next live show. I'm not really sure what number this is, so I'm not going to be referring to them by their number anymore, and I'm just going to refer to them as their date. As you can see up top, right there, it's actually July 9th, Saturday, 2011. So that's kind of what I'm going to start posting them as, because, well, I just never keep track because they're not really on a regular date. But anyway, we have a lively chat room going today. A few people showed up. And there's even more watching that aren't in the chat room. For those people watching, if you do want to pop in over to the chat room and ask questions, the address is BurgZergArcade.com/live-feed. So just come on and jump in. And as you can see here, we're still talking about Felicia Day. Anyway, does anyone in the chat room have any questions or anything? And of course, like always, we'll just edit out all the pauses because there's about a 3-second delay usually between what I say and them actually seeing it. Of course, that also varies depending on where you're located in the world. So no questions at all? I see Flanks is back. They don't actually see that in the chat room. Hopefully he's fixed his broken pipe. Not any news on 3.4? Not that I know of. Let me see. It was about a week ago. Someone told me it was about 2 weeks out. Now this was someone that I consider to be kind of like in the know. So I'd say about a week, another week maybe. I'm thinking it's probably going to come out around the same time that Apple releases their new OS. I've been running the new version Lion on my laptop, and it doesn't activate properly on Lion yet. And of course, I went to go post over in the official forums, but they've already replied saying that they're not going to support it till it's actually out. So I'm hoping it's like same day. So I really would like to start using Lion right away, but obviously I can't if Unity doesn't run, and there's no time frame on when Unity is going to run. So I might have to wait to install Lion just to make sure everything's running. Lion, as in rawr. Now, I think they named all their OSs after big cats. I'm not sure. I didn't come into leopard. Or sorry, tiger. I came in at tiger. Then it was leopard, snow leopard, and now lion. And didn't they have a puma or something like that beforehand? I'm not really sure. Like, I've only been using Apple machines for 3 years, so not exactly sure. 2.8 or 2.58 of Blender is already out. I have not used it though. I have absolutely no idea. So I'll give it a try, see if it works. I'm not sure. Okay, Paul wants to know basically what are the pros and cons in using C# over JavaScript for scripting, and that's a huge debate. Like, there's a lot of people talking. A lot of people seem to find JavaScript easier to learn. They can pick it up faster and go. Now, when I first started, almost everything that Unity itself had, as documentation-wise, was in JavaScript. They had a few little snippets here and there in C#, but it was primarily JavaScript. So when I started off, I started with JavaScript. Now, as I started to progress along with it, there were certain things that I wanted to do, and coming from a programming background, trying to implement them in JavaScript, it took a lot to like building a custom event system and stuff like that. It was really slow in JavaScript trying to do it, and that's when I started looking at C#. And the syntax is a little bit different in C#. Certain things like creating a new vector, you'd have to actually say, you couldn't just change like one component in a vector. So you couldn't just say, vector 3. Let's say you had some vector 3 and you named it, my vector. You couldn't just say my vector.x equals and then give it some new float. You actually had to basically rebuild the whole, send it in a whole new vector 3 and assign all 3 values again. And JavaScript actually does the exact same thing, but it does it in the background. So, like I said, C# is going to be more verbose, but there's certain things at the higher end you can do with it. And it really does seem to be the more popular language now. As far, well, at least it's gaining. It's maybe it's not the most popular just yet, but it's probably gaining faster than any of the others. Of course, the others being JavaScript and Boo. And I haven't used Boo simply because when I first started with Unity, my primary focus was the iPhone, and Boo did not run on there. And I was talking to someone a little while ago, maybe a week ago. Actually, I think it was around the last live show, whenever that was. And they had said that they had talked to someone that Boo it was an oversight that it didn't run on the iPhone, and that it will be implemented in a future build, and it might actually already be in there. I'm not sure. I haven't checked. But apparently Boo will be able to run on the iPhone. Only time will tell. I've never really weighed in as far as like what's better, Boo or C# efficiency-wise. To be honest, they're probably all pretty equivalent. The difference being that C# gives you some things built in automatically that are a little more efficient than what you could write in JavaScript. Does that answer your question? JavaScript easier to learn on general, on average? Yeah, see, if you're just starting out, C# really isn't that much harder to learn. Like, it's a little more verbose, so there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to be looking at, like all those using statements, and you're going to be like, oh my god, what the hell are those? And it might take a little bit longer to actually just get comfortable in C#, but once you're in there, like, the syntax itself is pretty similar. There's a few minor differences. Their documentation now is all caught up in all three languages. I believe their scripting reference API or whatever it is, their documentation, I believe it has the exact same examples shown in all three different languages. So it shouldn't be too bad. Let's see, what was next? Yeah, there's Big Cats. How did I learn scripting? I started programming back a long time ago in the 80s. So to me, when people start talking about, how'd you learn scripting? To me, scripting is kind of like a really new word because to me, it's just programming. But yeah, I started off back in maybe early to mid 80s. Well, let me think. Yeah, probably pretty close to early to mid 80s. My first language is BASIC on the TRS-80. And I just progressed all the way up through different computers. The Amiga was the first one I really started doing C. Oh, on the Commodore 64 is when I first learned machine language. I started C on my Amiga. C++ I didn't start using till I was on IBM machines. But yeah, you just natural progression of languages as you start learning. On the Amiga, there was a lot of languages I learned that were people writing their graduate projects. A lot of them, for some reason, kept creating different languages. And there was one called, I believe it was E. I learned that before I learned C++. And it was actually pretty cool. But it was only available on the Amiga. And then after he was done his graduate project, he moved on to something else. And he kind of just released it and said, hey, this needs a maintainer. And I went up for it. And of course, well, I wasn't near close enough back then, but this was the late 80s. But I have absolutely no idea. It'd be kind of cool to see if it still runs. I still have a couple of Amigas in the back room, so I don't know, maybe I'll crack one of those up and set it up. I think I have a monitor for it. But anyway, yeah, so it's just natural progression through languages. Java I didn't start till early 2000s. It's been about 2 years, or 10 years for Java. What other languages? C# I never learned until I started really using Unity. Like, I'd seen it before, but I never did anything in it until then. Let me see. That's pretty much it. So the next question, I'm just going to keep reading through. Well, thank you for the compliment. Yeah, that's another thing too with using C# is if you're on Windows, you can use Visual Studio. I don't think you can use it with the JavaScript version. Now, if Visual Studio is ran on a Mac, I'd probably use it. I like it better than MonoDevelop, but MonoDevelop does do everything I need. and mono-develop is still better than the one that comes with Unity. So let's see. Yeah. Actually, they just remade the Commodore 64 with modern day specs, and they, I believe, have actually released them. Might just be an American thing, though. I'm not sure. You can Google around, you'll find it. I think it might be called Commodore USA or something like that. The name is a little bit different, but they released the VIC-20, the Commodore 64. I'm not sure if they did the 128, but they released a couple different new Amigas as well. So it's kind of cool. Here's one. What would you recommend for Mac users that want to learn C#? I get asked this a lot, and I probably should put this up as one of the little fact videos. Just learn C#. Honestly, there's nothing special about it. There's going to be a few things in C# that you don't really need in Unity, such as all the instructions for creating forms and stuff like that. But C# actually is a useful language outside of Unity, so it's still worth learning. Even if you don't want to be a programmer, there's going to be some day where you're going to be sitting there looking at some little small application that you're using that someone else wrote, and you're going to be sitting there going like, oh man, you know, I wish it had this feature, or I wish it had that feature, or I really hate the way this interface is laid out on the screen. And if you actually know C#, you can probably just sit down and go, you know, I'm just going to rewrite this myself. And if it's a small enough program, you might even be able to get it done in a day. For those of you who have not heard yet, I've started playing around with EVE Online. A big shock. But yeah, like, I'm constantly thinking of looking at the applications that are out there for it already, and just constantly thinking of ways to upgrade those, but I just do not have the time. Maybe eventually, I'll make it into a Unity project or something and do a tutorial on it, but I'm not even going to think about it until they come up with a new API. But anyway, there's one for the iPhone. There's one for Windows. I can't really remember all the names. There's about 4 or 5 of them out there right now. There's some web-based ones. I've told you about Set Social. I can't remember the name of the Windows one. I did download it and try it, but like it's okay, but it's written in C#, but it's Windows only. I kept telling them to try to bring it over to Mono, but anyway, yeah. I take it you just joined in, Jim Gunzel. I would recommend learning C. If you're just starting out, I would recommend learning C# over JavaScript. If you watch the video after I'm recording this here, so after I'm recording, I encode it and upload it. If you watch the beginning, I explained that. Okay. Yeah, hopefully I'll have the video up by the end of the night. That's the plan. And I'll probably break it up to, like I did last time, the questions and answer period, then, different announcements and stuff like that. But anyway, were there any other questions? Yeah, what about packages? Now, you're referring to Unity packages? Okay. Did you want to know how to use them? Is that what you're looking at? Okay, I'm not sure why you're not seeing the control panel. There's a couple ways you can do it. If you already have Unity open, the way I do it is I just double click and it will load a package like that panel up for you. Take a look to make sure the panel isn't behind Unity. And if you're using multiple monitors, that it isn't off onto the side somewhere. It should be there. I've never been able to import a package without it. And I just imported a package yesterday. Yesterday, the day before. But that panel does show up and it gives you the options on what you want to include. Then you just hit the import button. But yeah, if you have Unity open, double clicking on a Unity package, at least on the Mac, opens it up. Of course, you have the other ways of going into the menu. There should be an import package there. And I believe there's also a right-click option down in your project window to import a package, and of course you get the little Windows Explorer thing, depending what operating system you're on. That you just go to that package, click it, and hit import. But it should show up. Okay. Well, not now. We're doing the show. Okay. For some reason, I'm going to read down. Okay. Now, when you're grabbing these copies of Detonator, are you grabbing them from the asset store, or are you grabbing them off of some other website? I would recommend grabbing them off the asset store. And the asset store, okay, you were trying it through the asset store? I'm not really sure. I just assumed the asset store would be the most up-to-date version. I haven't played with Detonator in a while. Let's see. Last time I played with Detonator, we were probably just making our starter village. How would I create an inventory script that I want? I don't. We cover how to create an inventory. I'm looking at Abba Belinsky. We have a script that actually creates an inventory. I don't know what the inventory in Fable: The Lost Chapters looks like. But if you just want it to look like that, it sounds like you just have to play around with the GUI skin and create your art assets. Take a look at the video we did on GUI skins, and was it GUI styles as well. And I think we'll go over them pretty quickly. We don't go too in-depth in them, but if you go onto the Unity website, they have like a page just dedicated to that, and it explains every option that you'd have on those panes. And then, of course, they're coming out with their new system, which I think is in 3.4. Is the new GUI in 3.4? I can't remember if it's 3.4 or 3.5. But they do have the new GUI coming out as well. So, and I have no idea what that's going to be like. Okay, I'm just going to keep going down. I'm going to be adding, in the tutorial series, we'll be adding a quest system. I will be adding some just basic quests at the beginning to start with, just to kind of give you an idea of how to go off on quests. So I'll do the standard kill X mobs, maybe some sort of chain quest where you've got to go talk to this guy, talk to that guy, go get this item, go talk to that guy, and come back to the start type thing. And there'll also be some sort of like kill a boss mob type thing. You got to kill one target mob. And I thought there was 4 different quests I was looking at, but those are 3 generic quests, like the type of quest that you see in every game, just to give you and all different ones, different styles of quests, just so you can get an idea of how these work. So you might want to send that in a PM since this is recorded, and people might see it in the chat window. And to do a PM, I believe it's just an oh, well, never mind. Anyway, yeah, give you a basic idea how to set the basic quests up. Now, if you want to get really fancy and elaborate, you'll have to come up with your own system, or at least try to extend on the system that I do. But, yeah, there will be basic quests. And again, they're at the end. Okay. Were there any other questions? I know there was a quest system for sale. Oh, no, sorry, there was a dialogue system. I'll probably be using both. I'll probably go through the first. I'll probably pick one of them, go through, and if I do SmartFox server, it's going to be the 2X version. But I'll go through, do the whole thing, set it up, and then come back later after I've got the first one set up and do the second one and just compare them. As far as, like, I really don't know which one's better for what I'm going to be trying to do. They have such different strengths and weaknesses. I've been doing a lot of talking with people that actually have sat down and done both, compared them, and apparently Photon in general is better for an MMO style type game. Now, I'm not really going for the MMO. I'm just going for small groups of people, and SmartVox Server 2X just might be enough for me. I'm not going to be worrying too much like on the server. We'll see when we get to that stage. As far as the models being high poly, no, as long as they're free and for people to use in non-commercial use, just we can work that out after the live show. Well, actually, after the live show probably isn't a good time for me. Probably tomorrow would be a better time for me. Have I ever heard of Electro Server? Yes, I have. There was someone that worked there that used to come over and post on our forums about it. I can't remember the gentleman's name off the top of my head, but if you search the site, you'll find a few threads about it and his comments. I'm not sure if I've ever invited them to come talk on the show. I don't think I have. It's the server I have the least amount of experience with. I actually could not get it running on my system. I followed, I believe they had a video series out on how to get it installed and running, and when I tried, it just would not work. So, yeah, that was my experience with it. I don't even have it on this system, I don't think. Let me just take a quick peek. Nothing under E for Electro Server. Nope. So I don't even have it on the system. So I must have tried it on my laptop. So I don't think I've reformatted this one since I've put it up. Free 3D modeling programs besides Blender. I believe there's a free version of SketchUp, which is by Google, I believe. Yeah, I believe so. It's Google SketchUp, isn't it? Completely 100% free? I'm not sure. I've just used Blender. There's a lot of really inexpensive ones. Well, Rhino 3D is free? I've never heard of that one. Is it any good? In comparison with Blender, that is? Sculptress? Oh, you can't do people in SketchUp? You can't do people in SketchUp, or you can't do people in SketchUp? I've never used it. I've watched it. Oh, you can't. Okay. I've never actually used it. I've just watched tutorials on it. I know a few universities or colleges, like post-secondary school institutions, using it simply because it's free. Well, they have a free version, and because it's being pushed by Google. Well, I think you actually have to have a school that you're going to in order to get that too. I don't think you can just download it and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to school. I need a coffee." There's a few out there that have educational licenses, but the licenses are restrictive on what you can do with it. I think Google's probably the best free one. I've never heard of Rhino, so I'm not really sure how good it is. If you're on a Mac, Cheetah 3D is only $100, and it's pretty popular. And for game development, it's probably all you really need. TrueSpace 7.1. Again, another one I've never heard of or tried. I have a friend that uses Silo. I think it's Silo he calls it. It looked really cool, but I'm pretty sure it's not free. Actually, I know it's not free because it's in the Mac App Store. He was showing it. I forget how much it is, but he liked it. Caligari? Yeah. That's what he was telling me. That it was really cheap, and he liked it, and he was showing it to me in the App Store. I actually think we have a couple tutorials on it too on the website, or at least a demo or something of it. Okay, well apparently there's a lot of free ones out there.